Welcome to Common Mansplaining, where no opinion is too common, no elites are allowed. I'm Eddie, that's Christian. Guys, this is a quick one. We're going to weigh in on the Mahmoud Khalil situation now that it's become probably far more blown up than it ever needed to be. That's my opinion anyway. I think this is kind of a petty situation, but now that we're here, we're going to talk about it.
Yep.
So, welcome to Common Mansplaining. What are your thoughts on Mahmoud Khalil?
All right. Well, we are a system of due process. I believe very much in due process. We cannot have secret arrests. We need to know that this has happened. The protesting, we have certain rights to protest, but when we start advocating for violence, at what point does our protections of free speech, especially if it's talking about overthrowing the government, overthrowing our institutions, at what point people step in and start questioning that? Yeah. Some of the recent terror legislation, laws passed after September 11th, have strengthened that and murkied it. But, underneath that, we still have a core sort of constitutional equal protection under the law. And then Khalil, he is not a permanent citizen. He's a permanent resident, and he's been here for a long time. But has openly advocated for violent positions that, just based on what he says, should be enough to deport him.
He's only got his green card like 5 months ago. So he's actually a relatively recent resident alien. One thing I was going to say is that, and this is kind of like this is the common mansplaining take, right? So for something like this, where I'm looking at this situation, and I did dig into it. We're going to talk about the law, but one of the quick shortcuts that you can take as a common person out there who doesn't have 7 hours to dig into the intricacies of deportation law, right? Yeah. Is you just kind of look and see whose side everybody's on, right? Like, if you're on the side of Columbia graduates, Hamas, Chuck Schumer, liberals, you're probably on the wrong side, right? Like, without looking at anything else. Like, I know that's
a heuristic, but yeah.
Yeah, I know, I'm being kind of humorous.
Well, we're skeptical. We should be very skeptical of positions Hamas takes.
Exactly. Exactly. And likewise, if you're on the side of conservatism and the State Department and Mark Rubio and ICE, who I'm very much in favor of Tom Homan. So without looking at anything else, I would guess that they're on at least the right side of the law. Now, there's two kind of major elements with a lot of the things that we discussed, in fact. And one is the legal element and one is the moral element, right? From a legal standpoint, digging into this, and I went really deep into this rabbit hole. It's convoluted at best. It's very complicated. I think there are some even contradictory laws. I think probably they have at least legal grounds to bring before the judge who's going to weigh in on this.
To detain him. Maybe not convict him, but yeah.
Maybe to deport him. I think so. The official law is the Immigration and Nationality Act. One of the things that it states is that if you are in violation of the conditions for your immigration, and there's a separate law for conditions of immigration, one of those conditions is if you endorse or espouse terrorist activity or support a terrorist organization with any material, then you're in violation and your citizenship can be revoked, your residency can be revoked, which is quite blatantly what this guy is doing. Right. Yeah. He's on film yelling that Hamas is good and that October 7th was a good thing. And literally his, what is it called? CUAD, Columbia United Apartheid Divest is the name of the group that he's the spokesperson of, is very openly against Western civilization, calls for the eradication of Western civilization. Yeah. So if you're that kind of guy, I don't know why America would want to keep him.
He's being provocative, and I think this is one thing with smaller organizations of things. People want to get attention. And yes. So being edgy, we understand. We want attention, and some of our takes are spicy. I will tell you they're sincere. They're not contrived. But you can phrase things in such a way to make them seem more offensive or to get more attention. Now, one of the long traditions, cultural thing that's very different from the West versus the Middle East, we're a very understated culture. And so when we reserve the strongest of language for the most extreme times, as far as we're going to destroy a country, we would only really use that language generally before Trump in the most extreme times. He's a little more cavalier with that language.
Definitely, right? Yeah. Well.
Yes.
He's kind of amplified the temperature.
And it's sort of like our British cultural cues from the Queen a little bit. It's very understated. You could imagine the King or the Queen of England declaring total war against Nazi Germany by saying something like, "We find the situation in Poland untenable." And it's like, something really understated. And so, they didn't even have to say, "We will destroy the Third Reich and drive them into the sea." They didn't even have to. It was just like,
just very reserved.
This is unacceptable. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to total war. Especially when we encountered Saddam Hussein and his very famous media personality who's putting out media reports, completely unconnected from the truth or anything like that. But sometimes when they're so powerless against the West, their only defense is over-the-top rhetoric.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a cultural thing and something that they can share and something to show they're not scared of the West. It's a macho thing or something like... I experienced this a little bit. I was a tall white kid growing up. I went to public schools that were mostly Hispanic. And so these Hispanic kids were shorter than me. And it was very important for them to show that they weren't scared of the tall white guy. Because there was also, if they were recent immigrants, it was sort of like, the certain status... And so they would deal with me very aggressive a lot. I would get challenged to fights a lot. Not that they wanted to, I just blow it off like it wasn't really a big deal.
Right.
But I realized that for them and for their culture, it was important for them to feel like they weren't scared. And sometimes I feel like the Middle East, using this really strong language, it's like, this is all we have. Like, we can actually launch missiles at America. We can actually destroy America. But we can say America can be destroyed and stuff, and because we use such understated language, it's like they're too scared to say that about us. And so this cultural mismatch, like just using that strong language sometimes is enough. Like I would have justified the invasion of Iraq just on what Saddam Hussein and his military and foreign people just said about the U.S. For them, it might have been empty air. For us, we hear that and we feel very threatened. And this is taking this protest into a very volatile situation, and then you add in Hamas. Now all of a sudden, so we're viewing it from our Western lens.
Yeah, definitely. That's a good point. I mean, the language is important. And I think a lot of times they take advantage of America because, of course, we have these protections. Now, specifically, although the law states that he could be deported for endorsing or espousing terrorist activity, which he quite explicitly is doing, it also specifically states in the 14th Amendment he can have it here, and I might as well just go ahead and screen share it so y'all can see it. All right, so right here it says, "Nor shall any state deprive a person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law." And here's the key line: "Nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." And so that's basically all laws. If taken to its broadest interpretation, which means that he would enjoy all of the freedoms of speech that we have. He would enjoy all of the other protections of due process, which seems to be a contradiction with the other deportation law, which is kind of odd. Now, and I think that, of course, that the good thing about this is now it's going to be in front of a judge who's going to weigh in on it, who's going to solve this with a precedent. But I'm a relatively free speech absolutist, and that being said, I think this whole thing is rather petty. I think it's a really weird battle to fight on both sides. Both sides. I think this is a weird person for Trump and ICE to go after, to try to deport. And I think it's a weird thing for Democrats to be like, whoa on too, because it's like, really?
All right, so yeah, if this was happening at Wake Tech Community College, they would just be like, come on. Part of Columbia, there's a lot of, it's an Ivy League school, a lot of elites have gone to it. They have a lot of money. They had over $400 million in research grants or something. Like, they're in the media capital of the world, in New York. So they're going to get a lot of attention. They have, for 2 years now, had complaints that these Palestinians have been harassing violently Jewish students. And going beyond just saying offensive language in the quad, or people going, but acts that will block or stop a fellow Jewish student from just trying to
from going to class,
live their life, right? Rather than just say your speech and get your ideas out there.
To put that in frame so that everybody understands, real quick, this guy is like literally part of protests that have sealed off classes, harassed Jewish students, and then after being told to go home and that they're violating campus laws by police, they refused. Like, he's at that level of like civil unrest. He like literally will not obey police officers, won't follow authority, won't. Just so people understand like how deep this goes. It's not just like people standing by with signs, shouting slurs or whatever. This is like definitely beyond just freedom of speech.
And usually protesters at this point are ready to accept some type of arrest or something. Right. And Biden administration, frankly, because Columbia is very leftist academia, very friendly to the Democratic Party, and generally pro-Palestinians are friendly of the Democratic Party, and Jews are. He didn't want to risk opening up a huge rift in the Democratic Party, so he just didn't do anything, which is bad leadership. It's cowardice. Yeah. So Trump gets in there, says, no, this is unacceptable. Look, people need to be able to go to classes or whatever. Like, you've crossed the line. Boom. Oh, you're not even a U.S. citizen? Like,
yeah, right.
Like, we don't even have to arrest you and put you in jail. We
just revoke your citizenship or your residency or whatever.
If you hate the West so much, why are you living here? How about you live where you want to live, where you'll be happy? Yes.
Like, that's what I can't. This is the one thing that I just, no matter how many times we go over a situation like this, that I just can't understand people waving Ukrainian flags or whatever. It's like, if you hate us so much, go home.
Yeah.
Every single day there's ships to leave. I don't hate you. You're welcome to stay. We'd love to have you if you're going to be a contributing member of society. I am not racist to anybody. I love all races, all colors, all creeds, everything. But if you don't like us, what the hell are you doing here? And this is what I'm trying to figure out with this specific case. He only got his citizenship 5 months ago. Why did they even give it to him? Like, because this was after all of his civil unrest and his campus violations, and he's here on a student visa violating campus policy. I'm like, why didn't they just say, you're really not fulfilling the obligations of your residency. Have a nice day,
So this smells like a rubber stamp. Like, whoever was doing their job was told not to look too close because, the Biden administration was deporting nobody. Any asylum seeker, all you have to say is, I have asylum. There's somebody in Syria that doesn't like me because there's so much war going on in Syria. The Russians don't like me. I'm not safe in Syria. Please give me asylum. I don't know. I mean, that's speculation. I don't know that's what he said.
Yeah, right.
But obviously, under this administration, his asylum request and permanent residency would have gotten a lot more scrutiny. And that sort of common sense that we would say is like, whoa, why are we giving this one permanent residency? We want people here that are going to bring peace, not harass already U.S. citizens that are just trying to get an education. So I think in general, people in the right and common sense, I would say a majority of Americans see this is what keepers of the peace are supposed to do. Take them out of the situation, then have a judge decide with due process whether what they're doing is appropriate, whether he's met a level of malice as to be criminal or not.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And before I say anything else, guys, I want to know what your thoughts are out there in the audience. Definitely post some comments. Let us know if you think this guy is in the right, if he's in the wrong, if, it's kind of a balance between free speech and constitutional upholding. And I'm wondering where you guys fall on that. I'm right on the fence on this one. It's really complicated. I will say that specific clause of the 14th Amendment offering equal protections to non-citizens may be the only constitutional remark that I don't agree with. I don't think that non-citizens should have the same privileges as citizens. I think they should have the same
due process.
To due process is fine, but that's not the same thing as all equal protections, right? I think you still need to earn citizenship at some point. Otherwise, if we're giving everybody all of the benefits of citizenship with none of the penalties, sometimes now they're even able to vote. So
some states want to take that clause and extend it. And so we need a precedent on that.
There's a level to which they still need to earn their residency and maintain the peace and be a socially cohesive unit. If they're not willing to do that, if they're instead not a citizen and here to rile up things and eradicate the West, I mean, I just can't fathom. On the one side, I can't fathom why they would be here, and on the other side, I can't fathom why we would keep them.
Well, I mean, I can see if you want to get media attention, you come to the media capital of the world. We're very skeptical of Hamas because Hamas has shown not just recently, but over their history, to be corrupt, to target citizens, and to use their citizens as human shields. And I feel like they have rightly deserved their classification, something that has bipartisan support, a designation as a terrorist organization. When it's a terrorist organization, we are going to treat your speech differently. The due process is it's not just somebody we don't like, but it has to have this be voted on and designated as actual terror. Since that threshold has been met, I think, again, what you had said at the beginning, just to reiterate, I think the administration's on a solid ground to detain him and to push for his deportation. Again, judge will decide if all that criteria is met. But ultimately, I think having this precedent set, the administration is at least going to pursue this and not do nothing like the Biden administration, is a win and an effort to keep the peace.
That's it. That's all
the
we can ask
government's
for.
job. Yeah.
Right. Guys, thank you so much for coming to watch us today. Please like, share, and subscribe this with all your friends. We need a lot of help getting this channel off the ground due to the algorithm. The algorithm is kicking our butt right now. So any help you can give us, show it to all your friends, show it to all your family, and we'll catch you next time. Common Mansplaining.